So, this year I've ranted about villains, and I've ranted about female characters more recently. So I think it's time that we talk about a more specific topic, and talk about female antagonists. I've been lucky so far to dodge the bullets that these topics can bring, but who knows how long that luck will—
Oh no!
The son of a bitch! I've made it clear before that I love girls, and I love villains, so naturally I love evil girls. It's a shame that the closest we can get to evil girls is goth girls, and I gotta say, I like those a lot too, but—
Kid of a superhero, but really, I'm like the opposite of my mom.
Oh, not that one! I don't know, there's this forbidden aspect of me liking women who have ideals of wanting to wipe out the world, crush her rivals under her heel, or be a very compelling antagonist. I've been alluding that I like me a good villain in my videos as of late, and if they're a woman who can tempt me over to the dark side, well, I better stop. I know my girlfriend's probably watching, and I'm gonna stop before I put my foot in my mouth even further than I already have. Ow. So I need to make it clear, I want to avoid bringing up points that I have in my videos talking about villains and strong female characters in the past. I kind of do it on purpose so I don't put all my thoughts into a single video and I can bring new points to future topics. But know that I still stand by my complaints and suggestions in both those videos, so what the hell am I going to talk about in this video?
You fools, I shall destroy you all, starting with the lactose intolerant. Moo moo.
Well, let's see. Much like in villains in general, I like the standard aspects to them, but there needs to be things that I want to see in villains, like nuance and competency. I know, that's a tall order, but if you give me about 15-20 minutes, I guess, I'll explain. When it comes to female villains and antagonists, they need to be able to stand on their own and show that they're capable of standing side by side with their male counterparts, without having to degrade the men in the process to push them up. If you have to pull down the male villains in a show to make your female villains look better, then you're not really making me want to like your female villains at all. I'm not saying that women can't be tricksters or get the upper hand on male villains to usurp power, but—
And what's that?
You know I've always been attracted to power, but now you're imbued with it and I want to feel it all. Not like this. If a mere mortal sleeps with a god, she could wake up in the afterlife. No, you must power down, lest you kill me.
Look, I'm not gonna touch this show again. It's become such a trash fire in its fan base, it doesn't seem to understand that people do not like this stuff. My god, that is such a friggin' ugly design. What is even up with the hair? Man, how do you make me not like muscle girls? Like, ugh! Spoilers, I guess? The apparently evil Lynn destroys Preternia, all the souls in it, and intended to destroy the universe, and she gets banished as her punishment. Really? That's it? Like, I'm well aware of the backstory of Evil Lynn in this, but honestly, I can't bring myself to care. Then again, Kevin Smith is probably the cause of all that bad faith with his terrible writing, and it seems to come out like an edgy teenager's fanfiction account that has his fetishes out on his sleeve. Yeesh, Kevin, can you make it even more obvious? And since I'm not the hugest fan of Masters of the Universe, I went to my friend Leo Convoy, who's much more of an expert on the subject. Kudos to him for this opinion, which I will read out in the most fancy way possible. Editor, classy music and background, please. I'm going to go posh on this one. Thank you. Ahem. Evil Lynn is a witch that teamed up with Skeletor to suit her own needs in the original stories, both in the mini-comics and the Filmation cartoon. She's motivated by power, nothing more. The new series tries to ham-fist a tragic backstory for her because the writing team isn't clever enough to write a villain with a simple motivation. The new series tries to ham-fist a tragic backstory for her because the writing team isn't clever enough to write a villain with a simple motivation. They think they need to be relatable or have some bizarre tragedy to push them down an evil path. The original Evil Lynn wasn't in love with Skeletor. In fact, she'd screw him over completely if it suited her needs. The new one's obsession with removing spirituality is a really dumb direction to take a witch as well. And of course, because she had a tragic backstory, she gets no consequences for her actions. You know, forget that she destroyed heaven and hell, forget that she killed Panther, and wiped Fisto and Clampchamp out of existence. She had bad parents who wanted to eat her. Wait, what? What the fuck? I mean, she just needs a good cry and it'll be okay, right? Seriously, what the fuck? Now, if you want a good female antagonist who's not only badass, managed to make her own way up to the top of the food chain, and can even have nuance and bring you to think about things, you need only to look at the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3.
Go home.
Look, I could take all the time in this video and I still wouldn't do the boss justice. I may do a dedicated video to her down the line in 2022, but for right now, this is how you do a good female antagonist who's competent, nuanced, and dare I say it, looks good while doing it. I want to make it known that before we continue, when it comes to Hideo Kojima and his use of women in his works, I've got more than my fair share of criticism of the guy.
Isn't that gun a little big for a girl?
Don't worry, I can handle it.
Come on, use my 45.
Listen, I've used a gun like this since I was 8 years old. I'm more comfortable with it than I am with a bra.
But if you were to ask me, I'd say that the boss is probably the most human character that Kojima has ever written. A character who not only stood equally against the protagonist, the soon-to-be big boss, was also his teacher by the way, but had to do it as both a villain and a hero. Obviously, we're focusing more on her as an antagonist, but considering that she is the leader of the Cobras, an advanced military group, and is shown to be easily able to kick the ass of Naked Snake, the boss does establish herself well as a good antagonist. She is the mother of special forces after all. She is a woman who was created out of war, but in the end wished for nothing but peace, no matter the cost, even her own life. A flawed concept to be sure, but any great character requires flaws. It's what makes us human after all, and allows us to actually relate to the characters. I mean, I'm going off script on this, but if you make Evil Lynn's backstory so tragic, that's an attempt to make her relatable. So, after being all of that, she wants to destroy the universe. Seems a bit much and kind of outside the realms of relatability. I mean, unless you're trying to say people like that want to light the world on fire, but hey, what do I know? Getting back to the actual concept of the boss, what makes us human was the goal that she was willing to achieve, even if she has to play the villain in order to accomplish the goal of maintaining peace. And like I said, we're talking about antagonists, not just villains. And the boss does fit that role pretty well. Really, when you play Metal Gear Solid 3 and learn about what the boss is doing for the sake of her dream and to fulfill her mission no matter what, you can't help but shed a tear for this character. This person whom you've been fighting against and learning about the history between her and the main character, it really hits you hard, especially when you realize that Naked Snake really considered her to be a mother figure in some regard. She was his teacher, and she betrayed him for the sake of the mission. Not to mention, even as an antagonist, she still has her own little quirks, but from how we see her, we know that she's got the skills. Hell, she's even to knock down the big bad Vulcan on his ass.
Stay out of this.
We're given a demonstration of her competence throughout the game and get a glimpse of her true character. What I'm saying is that she has a deep and nuanced character, and I really like that in my female antagonists, okay? Even more so that this is Kojima that we're talking about.
Look at this scar.
Now, even though I've ranted about this in my magnum opus on my channel and thinking about this makes me sad, I feel like we should talk a little bit more about the villains in RWBY. Look, I'm gonna be upfront on this. I'm mostly doing this because I know Volume 9 is coming out soon, sometime. And I really didn't need to talk about the villains in too depth in my original video, save for...
No one said that you should think.
Really, I can make an entire video talking about how the villains of RWBY are so incompetent that the only reason they're actually able to get a win is because the main heroes are now acting like villains, or even more dumb than their actions actively help the bad guys. Either that or Team RWBY is nothing more than a bunch of spoiled brats, which isn't too far off, really. But let's talk about the big bad Salem.
Your mother.
Like, I attribute this to the writers being incompetent and not knowing how writing works, but when you have your big bad in such close proximity to your heroes that she comes from her castle in the Underdark, and you just have her sit on her ass, letting all her monsters and goons do their work, I'm just standing here asking, why are you here? Seriously, in the show, we're shown that she can control and view situations with her big scary monsters, and we're also shown that she's all-powerful being who's incredibly lazy. Like, if you're so powerful and decided to go to the front lines, why are you wasting time? In fact, if you're so powerful, why do you need your goons? Why do you need anybody? The show makes it out to be such a big deal that Salem is immortal and so powerful that people are willing to act like idiots due to some aura that she has. And yes, I'm being hyperbolic. Don't take that to be an actual critique. But if you're so powerful, why do you need goons? And why is it only now does she want to enact her plans? She had countless years to do this crap, but only the last couple of years, in terms of the show, has actually gotten things done. So she's either so incompetent that she needs to rely on the heroes being so stupid, or the writers wrote the show in a vacuum and didn't think about the story that was being set up behind the story they were telling. Like, when it comes to literature, you need to be careful about what you're not directly telling your audience with your story as much as what you are telling them. And what doesn't help is that the writers really don't understand about redemption. Like, take for example Emerald from the same series. I know I brought this up, but it needs to be repeated. Like, the heroes know for a fact that Emerald is a bad guy and has actively tried to kill them in the past. But the moment she does one good thing for them, they instantly allow her to join the group. Like, what the hell? What was all this trust with Ironwood? What the hell? Well, there is some friction. They almost immediately trust this green-haired bitch. What if she was actively working as a double agent? I mean, when Cinder actively ruins their terrible plan to evacuate the civilians into an habitable desert filled with monsters, our heroes, everyone! How they couldn't have opened these portals, teleport them to a better place, you know, like a forest or an open field or one of the towns they already know about, or, you know, gotta dump them in the desert. We sure these heroes aren't villains? When Cinder crashes their plan, there's no consideration that Emerald leaked the details. I know we as the audience know that isn't true, but considering that our heroes seem to hate when their trust is broken, you'd think that this would be at least considered. Since we're talking about competency and redemption, let's talk about Queen from Deltarune Chapter 2. Now, this isn't me being negative about Queen. I actually really like her. If I had one complaint, it's just that I don't like her helmet. It just makes me go, ugh, when I see her and go, man, I don't want to watch Aliens right now. There's too many xenomorphs. But other than that, Queen is a very interesting antagonist for the chapter she's in. When it comes to the more comical antagonists, including females, I do think Queen's probably one of the better ones. Even more so when you realize that she's extremely entertaining. Really, when it comes to villains in general, I can forgive a bit if they tend to be very entertaining. And if they don't have any annoying traits, that's even better. Don't forget your potassium for this!
Get the banana! Get the banana, Chris! The banana! Chris! Get it! Get it! The banana!
Even then, we get a ton of interactions between Queen and, I guess, the party and player. I don't know. There's a lot of fun times, like when you're entering a deal with the Queen or playing this boxing minigame that shows what the boss of the chapter is going to be like, or her explaining why she's after Noelle. And despite being goofy, she's actually pretty effective at what she's doing. Hell, if you decide to proceed with the Snowgrave route, we do get a peek at seeing Queen being a little disappointed that none of her fellow Darkners from the cyberworld are with her. It kind of shows that she does care for others. Hell, she outright believes that her plans for the betterment of the Dark World, and is only an antagonist not due to malice, but misguided good intentions. Remember, the title of this video is Antagonists, not Villains. You can be an antagonist without being a villain, it's just more common practice to make your antagonists villains. Now, let's go to some of my Twitter suggestions. Let's see, Mother Miranda from Resident Evil Village. Oh hell yeah, she's a terrible antagonist. Even more so a terrible villain. She barely has any personality, and while having pictures all over the place and the villagers worshipping her, doesn't have much of a presence beyond the baddies talking about her. Then there's her motivation. It turns out she's trying to resurrect her dead kid from 100 years ago. Like, not to downplay the grief of a parent who has lost a child, but that's a long time for a resurrection plot. The big thing for me is that Miranda doesn't act like a mother, so her place in the larger theme of motherhood in the game comes off as hollow. Dimitrescu fills that role better when she's angry that you killed her daughters and was actually shown to have a bond with them. Capcom really blew their load with Dimitrescu, and it doesn't help that they really didn't care for the retconning that was made with this entry, and how this one woman apparently is a teacher of Spencer of the Umbrella Corporation. Miranda is the classic character who happens to upon some MacGuffin that turns them evil, and I kinda dislike them when it comes to characters. Another bad example, the Diamonds from Steven Universe. I mean, they're not really female, technically speaking. I think at this point we've gotten sick of talking about that show. Just know that they're garbage antagonists. Good examples this time. Let's see. Azula from Avatar. A near psychopath who had clear goals and motivations, was also very competent, and it took creative thinking to actually beat her. Yep, definitely one of the better female antagonists out there on the market. Hell, she even had her more comical moments too, and that was a real threat to the cast.
You mean you haven't guessed? You don't see the family resemblance? Here's a hint. I must find the Avatar to restore my honor.
Let's see, for a good and bad example, Lucamine from Pokemon. For the original version in Sun and Moon, Lucamine going off the deep end with her obsession of Ultra Beasts, even to the point where she had her own daughter dress up to look like one, and shows how abusive relationships with parents can be really heartbreaking. Then for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they removed that interesting aspect by trying to make her more sympathetic with a motivation to protect Alola from Necrozma, but her treatment to her kids is still awful, and she still freezes Pokemon despite supposedly not being crazy in this world. Yeah, that tracks for a bad female antagonist. Cruella from the live-action movie. Taking an iconic villainess and trying to make her into a more sympathetic character because... reasons? Feminism? To make money? And the list goes on and on. In all honesty, I could make this video really long if I were to read out all the suggestions of characters. Like, some people really wanted me to talk about Demona from Gargoyles. I mean, I kinda like her too, but I do have to cut this short. In case you hadn't noticed, my voice is not doing too good today. But considering that I'm juggling a real-life job in my YouTube channel, and that I want to get this video out ASAP, I think we'll have to go to my final thoughts on this topic. Like before in my other videos, I just want them to be well-written characters. I want them to be fleshed out, and I want to be able to enjoy what I'm seeing without being preached to or being told that I'm wrong for disliking or liking something. Antagonists are a staple of storytelling, and even more so when it comes to the female character versions. I don't think I'm asking for too much when I want creators to respect the characters that they're writing for, and not just pull some bullshit that they can get a good paycheck for and then blow off any criticism that they receive for their dishonesty and terrible projects. Ain't that right, Kevin Smith?
How we do it in episode 1 is he gives his fucking life. He sacrifices his life. Now, you know, I've been accused of lying for saying that that I'm like, He-Man does no stepping aside. If He-Man giving his life for the entire universe is stepping aside, then Tony Stark stepped aside. Jesus Christ stepped aside. Like, it's a messianic moment, and if you follow, like, you know, classic literature, the hero's arc, like, bless you, it's where the hero has to go. Eventually, you have to sacrifice your life.
He-Man and Skeletor locked in eternal battle. It's not about us.
But regardless, I think we should be looking towards equality in our writing. While our male antagonists can stumble and make mistakes, our female antagonists should also be in the same vein. The best characters are the ones with flaws because we're human and it allows us to relate to the characters. So as you can imagine, this works with antagonists too. Whether they be guys, gals, or something in between, I can always enjoy a lovely antagonist. I just don't want one antagonist to be brought down or be made to be an idiot just to put another on a pedestal. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm MangaKamen, and remember to examine your fandom. Also, you know, if you're actually looking for a show that has strong female characters who can kick a lot of ass without having to demean the male characters of the show to do it, can I honestly suggest you guys watch JoJo Part 6 instead of Masters of the Universe Revelations?
Simon didn't say drop it. I was just checking out the angles. I wanted to make sure to line up the easiest one to hit you from.
I mean, Jolene is so much better than Tila! And if you actually got to this part of the video as part of a litmus test, would you guys mind put down in the comment section, Jolene kicks Tila's ass? I just want to see how many people actually got to this part of the video. I want to see a flood of those comments. Anyway, I'm off to watch part 6. Peace out, guys!